Hi everyone, my name is Giselle Magdaleno. I'm a success coach at the Transfer Center at LBCC.
Hi everyone, my name is Monica Preciado and I am an intern this semester at the Transfer Center at Long Beach City College. And today we're going to be going over and doing a presentation on Transfer Bootcamp 101 so you can know all of the tips and tricks to transferring into whatever four-year university you want.
So
Let's
let's
get
get
started.
started. So why are we here today? So like Monica mentioned, we're here to help you get all the information that you need in order for you to transfer to the university that you dream of. So on the first bullet point, it says that we're going to help you define where your transfer units come from. That practically means that we're going to review all the units that you need to transfer to the university and how you could get them. Then we will also review the minimum admission requirements for CSUs and UC. This means that we will give you the information that you need in order for you to prepare to transfer to the university. We'll also be giving you tips for private school transfers, and we will be providing essential tools for successful transfers. We want to make sure that you're well equipped with everything that you need. So let's get started with this presentation. So let's do the math here. As you can see, the magic number here is 60 units. Every student needs 60 transferable units in order for them to transfer to their desired university. Now you're wondering, well, how are we going to get the 60 units? Well, let's look at these three little boxes that we have here. I just want to note that the order that I'm going to be giving them in, it's not the order that you have to do it in. So let's start with the first source that we can get some units. This is the general education. We have either two plans that we can take. One is the CSUB Plan B, CSU Breadth, or the UC Plan C and IGETC. Let's start with the CSU Plan B. This plan gives you a list of courses that you need to take if you're planning to transfer to a Cal State University. For example, if you're telling a counselor that you want to transfer to Cal State Fullerton or Cal State Long Beach, this would be the plan for you. On the other hand, if you tell your counselor that you want to transfer to UC, for example, UC Berkeley, then this would be the plan for you. This plan is called UC Plan C or IGETC. I just want to note that whenever you talk to a representative from those universities, they typically refer to Plan C as IGETC. So this is an important term that you would have to know if you're planning to take this route. One cool thing about IGETC is that you can also use this plan to transfer to a Cal State University. So you have two options to use, Cal State University or UC. And as you can see on that box, it says that only lower division general ed. That means that these two plans are courses for you to take for your general education that are transferable to a UC or a CSU. And they're only lower division courses. Typically for this plan, either Plan B or Plan C, you get around 39 units. So now you're wondering, where do I get the other units from? Well, let's look at the second box that we have here on the screen. We can see here that it says courses per major. Once you declare the major that you would want to transfer to, let's say for example, psychology, you would log on to the website assist.org. And on that website, it tells you the classes that you need to take in order for you to transfer to that university with that degree. It's practically a website that tells you the equivalence of the classes that you take here at LBCC that are similar to the classes that you want to transfer to in that university. Some other students might want to transfer to CSU LB, which means that there's also a list of major courses that they need to take in order for them to transfer to that university. There's another thing called ADT, which is an associate's degree in transfer, which also gives you a list of courses that you need to take in order for you to transfer to the university that you wish to transfer to. And also UC pathways. I just want to note that these terms will be more talked in depth later in this presentation. So now you're wondering, well, we take general education courses. Now we're taking courses for our major. What happens if we don't complete the 60 units? Well, you have different options. You can either take courses from your general education, either from Plan B or Plan C, and complete the 60 units, or you can also take electives if needed. So for example, if you've always wanted to take a class in dance or something that you've been really interested in, you can take those classes as an elective, but you just have to make sure that you talk to your counselor to make sure that those units are transferable. So that's the key thing here. Always make sure that you're meeting up with your counselor so they can be aware of the courses that you need in order for you to complete the 60 units. So now on to the next slide. We're going to be talking about the minimum requirements for the CSUs. So for the California State Universities, the minimum GPA is a 2.0. However, one thing that you have to know and be aware of is that some majors and some universities are impacted. Impacted is a word that I want you to become familiar with. And it practically means that certain majors or certain universities could be impacted, which means that there's no room for. And because of that, they increase the GPAs for those schools and those majors. For example, Cal State Long Beach is a university in which all the majors are impacted, which means that the minimum GPA will not be 2.0, it will be higher than that. On the other hand, for Cal State Dominguez Hills, that's a university that is not impacted, which means that the minimum GPA will be 2.0. So I just want you guys to be aware of that, to know that depending on the school, whether some majors are impacted or not, the GPA will change. And as we look over to the right here, it says 60 CSU transferable units. Again, you need 60 transferable units to transfer out to the school that you would want to transfer to. And as you can see here, it says 70 units max. So 70 units is a max capacity that you can transfer over to the university. And now you might be wondering, well, what if I have 70 units or more? Well, what you can do is you can still take the classes that you need. Let's say that you're missing some courses from your major prep courses or from your general education. You can still take those courses, but you will get subject credit, which means that you can still take it, but you won't get the units for it once you transfer out, but you don't have to repeat those courses once you're at the university that you want to transfer to. So it's practically taking a class, not getting units, but still getting credit for it. And then there's this thing called the Golden Four. This is really important, which is also listed on your Plan B. And this falls under oral communication, written communication, and critical thinking, and math. I'll go over this a little bit more in depth on the next slide, just to give you an idea of what these classes are all about. And lastly, it says that we need 30 units of general education. Again, that's still part of the Plan B or Plan C if you plan to go that route too, that you're gonna get those units from. So as you can see on the next slide, it's an example of a Plan B. And as you can see here on area A1, it says oral communication. You need a class from there. Area A2, written communication. You need a class from there too. Area A3, critical thinking. And area B4, mathematics and quantitative reasoning. So as we mentioned, these are the Golden Four classes that you must take in order for you to be able to transfer out. Again, once you meet with your counselor, you can decide what classes best fit for your schedule. Now moving on to the next slide, I'm sorry. We're gonna be talking about the minimum UC requirements. So this is a little different compared to the CSU. As you can see here on the left, you need a 2.4 GPA in order for you to transfer to a UC. Again, the magic word here is 2.4. However, on the other hand, once you fill out a transfer admission guarantee to a UC school, those GPAs do start at a 2.7. For example, UC Riverside, okay? And same rule as a CSU, you also need 60 UC transferable units. And again, you cannot transfer over more than 70 units. If you do, and you still need to take classes, they will be counted as subject credit, which means you won't get any units, but you'll still get the credit. And then one thing that's different here is the Golden 3 7-course pattern. It's very similar to the Golden 4, but it is very different too, which again, I'll talk about more once we go on to the next slide. And then lastly, it says major prep courses. So you do need to take your major prep courses in order for you to transfer to UC school. And UC schools really like it when you have all your major prep courses finished. The more lower division major courses that you take before transferring, the better chances of being admitted. So again, they really like it when you take all those major prep courses. And this is just a little snippet of what it takes for you to meet the minimum UC requirements. So as we move on over to the next slide, this is the UC 7-course pattern that I just talked about right now. So I'm just gonna review it, and if we can go over to the next slide again, thank you. As you can see, it says we need 1 mathematical concepts and quantitative reasoning course. We need 2 English composition courses, and we also need 4 courses from at least 2 of the following subject areas: arts and humanities, social and behavior sciences, physical and biological sciences. So now, as we move on to the next slide, I'll give you more information as to where these classes are coming from. So this page that you see here is an example of Plan C, again, also called IGETC. And as you can see here, it looks very similar to Plan C. We can see that it says Area 1A, English Composition, Area 1B, Critical Thinking and Composition, and Area 2, Mathematical Concepts and Quantitative Reasoning. As you can see, I skipped Area 1C because as you can see there, it says that it's only required by CSUs only. Again, as I mentioned before, if you're planning to utilize and go with the Plan C IGETC, but you're also planning to transfer to a CSU, then you want to make sure that you still meet Area 1C because that's still a requirement for the CSU. So again, if you're planning to go with IGETC, Plan C, and you're planning to transfer to, let's say, UC Berkeley and Cal State Fullerton, then Area 1C does need to be met in order for you to transfer to both schools. Okay, so Area 1A, Area 1B, and Area 2 are the courses that are still part of the 7-course pattern. So now you're wondering, where do we get the rest of the 4 courses? So once we move on to the next slide, we will show you the classes that you could take in order for you to meet the 7-course pattern. So let's take a look at here. One thing to notice is, again, the 4 GE courses that you need to take, they cannot just be from one area. For example, we have Arts and Humanities, GE area. We have Social and Behavior Sciences, and we also have Physical and Biological Sciences. Some of you guys might be thinking, well, all I want to take is 4 courses in Physical and Biological Sciences. What you cannot do is do that. You cannot take all 4 courses from one area. You want to make sure that they're at least split up to 2 areas. So you can take 4 classes within these 3, and you can choose which areas you want to take the classes from. But that's practically the classes that you need to take for the 7-course pattern. And now you're wondering, well, isn't this part of the IGETC plan? It is. So it's not something that you have to take extra. It's already part of the Plan C and your IGETC course pattern. So it's just a matter of knowing what classes to take in order for you to meet these, okay? And as we move on to the next slide, we're gonna talk about when not to finish these admission requirements. So one important thing for students to know is that you do not want to plan on completing the requirements the semester right before the transfer. For example, if you're transferring for fall 2021, you don't want to plan on completing the admission requirements in summer 2021, which is a semester prior to fall 2021. Let's say that you want to transfer for spring instead. in that case, you don't want to plan on completing the admission requirements in fall 2020. And what do we mean by admissions requirements? We mean the 60 transferable units, the golden 4 for the CSU transfer, the 7 course pattern for UC transfer, the courses required for your major, the courses for the ADT, etc. So again, when completing these courses, you want to make sure that it's not done the semester right before. And again, I'm going to encourage you to make sure that you're following up with your counselor, excuse me, to make sure that everything that needs to be taken is taken at the right time. So now we're going to talk about, on the next slide, about the application deadlines.
So for the application deadlines, you're probably wondering, well, when do I have to apply? This is actually really important, and it's also something that sometimes keeps a lot of LBC students still at LBCC because they don't know the deadlines and they may miss them. So it is important for you to keep all of these deadlines in mind, specifically for when you want to apply. So for example, for fall, we have the Cal State application. So another thing that you will notice is that for some of these deadlines, they're typically a semester before, but for fall, it's actually a year in advance. So for the Cal State system, the application, you can submit it anywhere from October 1st to November 30th. It does open October 1st, so you can't start on it early, but make sure you start on it as soon as it opens, especially because towards the end, around the November deadlines, towards the end of the month, we do get really busy, and a lot of the time students want help, but it may take a little longer because we just have so many students that need help. So just a reminder, it is from October 1st to November 30th typically, but this year, so anyone that is applying for fall admission 2021, the deadline was extended a little bit more to December 4th. So you have a few more days to be able to submit that. In terms of the UC system, the application is, you can submit it anytime from November 1st to November 30th, but the UC system application actually opens around August. So if you wanted to, you can work on it early, you just can't submit it. And that's something that we do recommend students. Typically, ballpark, we recommend that they have everything done before Thanksgiving, just so that they can actually enjoy that time with family and enjoy that time to yourself, and you don't have to be stressed over the applications. And as we mentioned, sometimes students miss these deadlines, and maybe it's springtime and they're asking, so when can I apply? And for fall, but as I mentioned, it is a year in advance. And also other students may be asking, well, why do I have to apply a year in advance? Well, what it is that as part of the application, you actually are able to submit and demonstrate the classes that you are going to be taking in the fall, in the winter, and in the spring. And so a lot of what you call it when you get admitted is a conditional admittance. So it's just that that's a part of the application, and so that's why it is a year in advance. Now for students that are interested in applying for spring, the Cal State application is from August 1st to August 31st. We are in September already, so it is a little bit late for that, but keep this date in mind if you're interested in applying for spring admission 2022. And then for UC system, the application is from October 1st to October 31st. What you do have to keep in mind with the UC system for spring and also UC for winter is that not all schools open their application and not all schools take spring admins. So the 3 schools that do, however, are UC Merced, UC Riverside, and UC Santa Cruz. So that's just something to keep in mind, knowing that if you want to apply for spring or winter, you can only apply for Merced, Riverside, and Santa Cruz. And then in terms of the winter admits, the application for the UC for those 3 schools that I mentioned is from July 1st to July 31st. There's also something else called UC Tag. And you might be asking, well, what is Tag? What you can do when you're applying for fall of next year, so applying for fall admission, you can actually tag one of your UC schools Not all schools have tag. Those schools that do have tag are Davis, Irvine, Merced, Riverside, Santa Barbara, and Santa Cruz. So when you tag an application, you basically are saying that you'd like for them to review your application earlier. And if you get admitted, you also are able to get an earlier notification than for any other school. So if you have a school that you have your heart set on, that you really want to go to, and you'd love to know early on that you got in, you can go ahead and tag that school. However, you can only tag one school, and as I mentioned, not all schools are a part of the tag program. And lastly, the LBCC, ADT, and applying for graduation. Those deadlines vary, but you can find all of that in your Viking portal. But it is important to make sure that you're applying for graduation, because if you don't apply for graduation, you won't essentially be able to apply for transferring if you don't do it by the deadline. So there's deadlines depending on when it is that you want to transfer over, and the school that you're applying to has to know that you are going to be receiving your degree because you applied to it. Okay, so besides transferring to Cal States and UCs, I know we had a lot of talk about Cal States, UCs. You obviously, a lot of students may be interested in transferring to a private university or an out-of-state school. So what's the process for this? It is important to do your research with this, because oftentimes well, not oftentimes, but there isn't an actual plan. So in this way that Justin was mentioning, plan B and plan C, that actually has a set of courses that you know you need to take in order to gain admission. For private universities and out-of-state universities, these can be different. So that's why it's important that you check in with the university admissions website and research what it is that they require. What GE courses do you need to take? How many units do you need? What's the minimum GPA? All of that you have to make sure that you find out from the university. And with that, make sure that you're also planning this with your counselor. So understanding what you need to do and talking to your counselor will help you so that you can have a plan that's set and prepares you to be able to meet those admissions requirements. And as I mentioned, the minimum units GPA and also the major specific requirements can vary by school. So for example, typically you need 60 units to transfer over to a CSU or a UC. Well, an example, USC, you only need 30 units. So that's why it's important to keep in mind. And they also have different GE patterns that you have to take, so your general education courses. So that's why it is important to make sure that you know exactly what it is that they're asking for before you transfer over or before you apply. We also have other transfer agreements. So we have some with the HBCUs, so that's the historically Black colleges and universities. And we do have transfer guarantee programs with 35 schools. So make sure that if you're interested in applying to any of these schools, you check out that link and find out. Some of these schools also, if you're getting an ADT degree, an associate's degree for transfer, they may be able to accept some of the classes that you have taken and accept some of that ADT. So make sure that if you are interested in any of those schools, you do your homework and you check our website and find out. And then there's another one. This one is pretty exciting for anyone that wants to go out of state but still wants to stay on the West Coast. It's called the Western Undergraduate Exchange, or WU. So essentially, as you can see on that red map, those are all of the states that have schools that are a part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange. Not all schools are a part of it, so again, it is important to do your research and you check whether the school you're interested in applying is a part of that exchange. But if you find a school, so for example, if you decide that you want to go to Arizona State University, ASU, is a part of the Western Undergraduate Exchange. So this is where the perks of tuition come in. If your school that you're applying to is a part of WU. Non-resident tuition at Arizona State University is about $28,800. Resident tuition, so that's someone that lives in Arizona and is an Arizona resident, they would pay about $10,709. Now, if you are coming from California and going to ASU because it's a part of WU, you would only pay $16,064. Yes, of course, it is not $10,000, but it is also definitely not $28,800. So you are definitely saving some money there. So make sure that you, again, check with the school that you're interested in applying to make sure that they're a part of that program. Now, I mentioned a little bit about ADTs, and you're probably like, okay, what is this? Some of you, make sure that you are checking with your counselor to see if you are receiving an ADT degree. It's an associate's degree for transfer. It comes with certain perks, especially for the CSU system. So for the UC system, typically what you get is, you stand out a little bit more. And if you have a specific school that you're like, I really want to go to it, having an ADT will potentially give you a little bit of an edge. With CSU system, there's actual more specific perks that you get. So for example, you can actually get guaranteed admission within the CSU system. So with one, you are guaranteed to get into at least one CSU school. The specific school is not a guarantee. So if you have your heart set on CSULB, it's not a for sure that you will get into CSULB. A lot of this depends on majors and whether the major that you're applying to is impacted. And as Giselle mentioned, all of the majors at Long Beach are impacted. So that is something to keep in mind. However, having guaranteed admission into a school is a big perk. So what happens is, for example, let's say you're applying as a business major into Long Beach. And Long Beach says, you know what? Yeah, we don't have space because our major for business is impacted. So what Long Beach will then do is that they'll go ahead and forward your transcript and forward your application to the next school that has space in their business major department. So you might get lucky if you want to stay close by to Long Beach, and it might get sent over to Dominguez Hills. And now you are admitted into Dominguez Hills for business. Or if you didn't really want to go far, but the only school that has opening is maybe Chico State University, then everything will get sent over for free. You don't have to pay anything else, but it will get sent over for free to Chico State University. And they say, yeah, we have space for business here. So now you are guaranteed admission into Chico State. So that's just something to keep in mind. But again, it's definitely a big perk. Also, if you apply with an ADT to a CSU school, they guarantee that you will receive your bachelor's degree within 60 semester units. Sometimes students are like, I was at the 4-year for 70, 80, 90 units until I received my degree. But if you apply with an ADT, they are guaranteeing that you will receive your degree within 60 semester units after you transfer over. Now this one, the GPA bump. You see for impacted majors, it's 0.1. For non-impacted majors, it's 0.2. You might be saying, okay, it's 0.1, 0.2, like that's not a big difference. Well, actually, for some students, it has made the difference between meeting that major requirement that they need. Giselle was talking about those major requirements that for Long Beach, for example, it is a little bit higher and it could be like a 2.5. Well, guess what? If you were ADT and you had a 2.3 GPA if you're a part of a non-impacted major and you're applying into Long Beach with a non-impacted major, now you met the GPA requirement of 2.5. So sometimes those 0.1, 0.2 can make the difference between you being able to meet the requirements or not. So it seems small, but it can have an impact. And lastly, as I mentioned in the previous slide, you can get a little bit of an admissions benefit with an ADT to private schools and the historically black colleges and universities, making sure that you are just checking in with your counselor or even with the school to see if they give you any perk or benefit by going in with an ADT or transferring over with an ADT. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the fun stuff, the resources, everything that you need to go do right after this, all the accounts that you have to open right after this. One of these is assist.org. So Assist is amazing because if you are taking classes at a California community college, which if you're here, you're Long Beach, you're taking classes with LBCC, so you are taking courses with a California community college, you can actually see all of the transferable courses from your community college over to any CSU or UC campus. So why is this important? Well, this is important because when you're really trying to figure out, okay, what are my major requirements? What are the classes that I need to take to meet the GEs? You can go into assist.org and understand, okay, these are the major requirements that I need. It says that I need, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the examples in a moment, but depending on what it is you need, you now know what you have to take because assist.org will tell you exactly. Aside from that, when you're actually applying, you might be a little bit confused as to, well, is this class that I took going to transfer over? I'm not sure. So what you can do is go in, type in the class that you took, and see if it will count as a transferable unit to the CSU or UC schools that you're interested in applying to. Aside from that, you can also search, as I mentioned, your major at Cal State University and UC campuses. So you will actually be able to see what classes that you need to take in your full plan once you're there and see which classes you can take while you're at Long Beach. So here's an example. Let's say that I am a psychology major and I'm going from Long Beach City College and I'm going to be transferring over to Cal State Long Beach, okay? So I can actually see that I'm going to need general psychology, introductory statistics, critical thinking, personality and social behavior, research methods, psychobiology, and prevention and treatment. So now I'm like, well, I know what I need to take and what is going to help me out with my major, but how do I know what classes I have to take at Long Beach? Well, assist.org will tell you that. Now you know that you can take Psych 1, Stats 1, or Math 21H, Math 1B, and you can actually see all of the courses that will transfer over. You might also notice that there's something here that says no course articulator. What does that mean? That just means that there's no class at LBCC that you can take to meet this requirement. And that just means that you will have to take that class at Long Beach. So here, for example, you'll have to take personal Psych 150 and Psych 278 at Long Beach, Cal State Long Beach. Another perk that a lot of students may not know, because a lot of students from Long Beach maybe are eyeing to transfer over to Cal State University Long Beach. So there's also actually something called local area preference. So this just means that if you have graduated from any school within the Long Beach Unified School District or a few others that are kind of close by, you just have to meet the basic requirements that they're asking for from you, and you have guaranteed admission into Cal State Long Beach. That sounds amazing, right? You can actually guarantee that you are going to get into Long Beach. So some of the schools that are there, you can go ahead and look at that website and you'll be able to find out which schools. But for example, if you graduate from like Poly, if you graduated from Lakewood, Lakewood, Paramount, those are just some of the examples of some of the schools that have local area preference. And aside from that, veterans and active military also get this preference. So the only thing, however, we did mention that at Long Beach, all majors are impacted. So you can get in for those. But there are these 5 majors that are actually called highly impacted majors. So they're not just impacted, they're highly impacted. And for that, those majors, local area preference doesn't apply. So they're athletic training, nursing, social work, dance, and music. So if you are interested in any of those, you wouldn't be able to get the local area preference boost if you graduated from one of the high schools that you can do local area preference with Long Beach, but any other major you can. Another great thing is that Long Beach is actually not the only school that does local area preference. CSU LA and Fullerton, for example, also have that. So the only thing is that the requirements and what is defined as local area preference is different. So for Long Beach, it's the high school you graduated from, but for Fullerton, it's the community college that you graduated from. So you have to make sure that you check in and see which one it is that they are asking for. And lastly, sometimes we get student questions that are like, well, what if I graduated from high school a long time ago? Is it still going to apply? Yes, it is. As long as you graduated from that school, then if you're applying to Long Beach, then yes, it will count. Again, if it's for Cal State Fullerton or for Cal State LA, it depends on the community college. More great transfer resources. So you would need to know, again, this is still talking about the local area preference. What is it exactly that I have to meet? Well, you have to make sure that you're meeting the major specific requirements for the year you're applying to. So making sure that you're checking, if you just Google major specific requirements, you'll be able to find what those are. They'll tell you the minimum GPA required for your major of admission. They'll tell you the major courses required for admission. And they'll also tell you the recommended courses shown for non-local students. So some of you who maybe didn't graduate from a school in Long Beach may be saying, well, great, why do I even apply? I'm not going to get in since all of these students that actually graduated from my high school around Long Beach will be getting in. Well, actually, every year, about 25% of students who get into Long Beach or go to Long Beach are using the perk of the local area preference, and 25% of those students are not local. So you actually still have a chance to be able to apply. And if you're non-local, what will help you is taking the recommended courses shown. That will give you a little extra boost so that they can look at your application and give you a higher likelihood of getting in. So once again, the admission guarantee for CSULB, those of you that are looking into CSULB and have graduated from your high school, you get that local area. It is not for the majors that are highly impacted, and in order to be able to meet the minimum requirements, you have to meet the minimum GPA required. You have to take those major courses, okay? So those are the two things that you have to do if you graduated from a high school around Long Beach or that they give they give local area preference to, okay? So make sure that you Google that and you find out what that is, what major courses you have to take. So here is an example of that, okay? So let's say, again, we're gonna use psychology again. So in order to be able to gain admission for that major, which is psychology, the minimum GPA is 2.5. Remember that we had said that for those majors that are impacted, typically the GPA is a little bit higher, or the school is a little bit higher. Well, for Long Beach, the minimum cumulative GPA, that's with all your classes, is 2.5. And you have to make sure that the minimum lower division preparation, so what you got is grade of C or better for those courses. And in terms of the specific major, so psychology, the minimum GPA is 2.5 for these three courses, which are the required courses that you have to take. Not the recommended, these are the required courses you have to take. So we have Psych 100, Psych 110, and Psych 220. And so make sure, going back to this one actually, this is the example for psychology, but make sure you go in and you really find out what it is for the specific major you are applying to. So for UCs, we talked a lot about Cal State. So what about UCs? What's going on there? Well, we actually have, there's actually a tool called the UC Transfer Pathways that will show you the roadmaps for 21 of the most popular UC majors. So those include any common or competitive major courses at the UC schools that you have to take. And it'll also give you the major courses that are available at community college. So you can go in and really say, okay, I'm interested, let's use psychology again. I'm interested in psychology at UC, at this specific UC, or just a UC school in general. You can actually go in and understand which classes it is that you have to take for that major, and they'll also share with you which classes you can take at Long Beach City College that will apply for your major. The cool thing about if you follow the admissions requirements, the transfer pathways, is that you can also use assist.org, but as with Cal State University or with the CSUs, you can use assist.org, but this tool actually gives it for you. So you don't have to say, okay, these are all the classes, let me go into assist.org, you don't have to do that. You can actually just do it on this tool. So let me give you an example. So here it is. This is the transfer pathways. So I want to know which courses I can take at Long Beach City College, and this time we changed, no more psychology. Let's try anthropology. So you go and you check, okay, Long Beach City College, and I'm choosing the pathway for anthropology. What can I take at Long Beach that will meet those? Well, here they'll tell you, well, this is the expected coursework. This is what we're expecting you to actually take. We're expecting you to take physical and biological anthropology, cultural anthropology, and introduction to archaeology. As I mentioned, you can go into assist.org and find these, but this tool also does it for you so that you don't have to go from one page to another, just do everything here. And here, since you put in Long Beach City College, you can go in and it's telling you that, you know, they need physical and biological anthropology, cultural anthropology, and introduction to archaeology, which are and at Long Beach City College, these are Anthro 1, 2, and 3. So now you know that if you want to transfer over as an anthropology major, those are the courses that you have to take at Long Beach City College. Now, something else that this is really the serious tool for serious UC transfers. The UC Transfer Admission Planner. A little while ago, I talked about tag, right? You can tag application, you can tag one UC application and they'll review your application early, and they'll also tell you earlier on, they'll give you your notification of admission. Well, there's the UC Transfer Admission Planner. That's actually going to be your application for tag. So if you're interested in doing tag, as soon as we're done with this, go ahead and open that and start working on it. Not only will it be for those students that want to tag, but even if you don't want to tag any application, you're like, it's fine, I don't need to do that, I'm just gonna apply to the schools regularly and it's fine. Well, we still recommend that you open this up because the UC Transfer Admission Planner also allows the UC schools to talk to you. So if, you know, UCLA is having a workshop or they are having an open house, they can actually share all of that information through your UC Transfer Admission Planner. In the same way, it allows us as Long Beach City College staff to talk to you as well in the same way. If we get a notification from UCLA that they're doing an open house, now we can go into the UC Transfer Admission Planner and find all the students at Long Beach City College who are interested in applying to UCLA and send that information to them. So that's why it is important that even if you don't want to use and do tag, you can still open it up and it'll still give you some perks. And lastly, loading coursework into your transfer application. So when you're applying, every single little class, every class, all the W's, all the B's, all the A's, everything, even what transfers, what doesn't transfer, you're going to have to enter all that coursework into the application. Well, the UC Transfer Admissions Planner allows you to be able to enter all of that information into that planner. And once you open your application, it'll let you actually transfer, everything will automatically transfer over. So you can just fill out your transfer admission planner with every single class that you need to take. And once you open your application, your coursework will be there. Just make sure though, to keep in mind that you have to make sure that you open your application with the same email that you use when opening your UC Transfer Admission Planner, because that's how the systems talk. If they see, oh, this is the same email, this is the same person. But if they see different emails, even if it's the same basic information, they're going to say, oh, those are two different people. So make sure that you use the same email that you use to open the Transfer Admission Planner to open your application. And also a cool feature is that aside from being able to transfer all that over, it can actually calculate your UC GPA. So the transferable GPA, you don't have to crunch the numbers. If you do it on your transfer admissions planner, it'll crunch the numbers for you and give you what it is that your GPA, your transfer GPA for UC will be. So if you are interested in transferring over to a UC school, we highly recommend that you use this tool. So now coming to an end, obviously we are not on campus and we probably won't be for a good amount of the foreseeable future, but hopefully soon. But if you do need to get in contact with us, go ahead and email us at transferacademy@lbcc.edu, or you can also give us a call. And please leave your name and your ID number if you're emailing or calling us. That way we know, we know exactly who you are, and we have that ID number to kind of give us a little bit more of an idea, okay? And everything that we talked about, make sure you invest in your future and you start planning all of these things. Go in, start asking your counselors if you don't know, which G plan am I doing? Is it plan B or plan C? It's important that you know. And also make sure that you know what major you're transferring over to. What is that major? Because you need to know which classes you need to take. And if you are transferring to Cal State Long Beach, check what the major specific requirements are, check the major that you need, and also check to see if the high school that you graduated will count for the local area preference, because maybe it does, and now you can guarantee your admission if you have those requirements. And lastly, if you're transferring to a UC, as I mentioned, make sure that you use that transfer admissions planner, okay? Start opening all your accounts as soon as we're done today. And make sure, lastly, to see your counselor every semester to make sure that you are on track for your transferring needs and you're meeting all your requirements. Good luck with your transfer goals, and we hope we hope to see you soon. We hope the presentation helps you, and we will always be here to help. And also make sure you're tagging us with the hashtag #WeAreLBCCTransfer. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a great day.